Hi guys and welcome to Hijax747, a channel dedicated to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, a game in development by Visionary Realms. If you have any questions, go to their website at pantheonmmo.com. Hey guys, today's topic is PvP. I'd like to share my thoughts on classes that should do well, rule sets, servers, factions, PvEP, and Carebears. So let's get right into it. The term Care Bear, an affectionate term referring to a can't we all just get along attitude. In this utopia, all races are friendly and grouped together. Oh, and did I mention everything has to be fair as well? Sarcasm aside, this attitude is not one I share myself in real life or in games. It's a great segue into my next topic, which is faction. My first honest concern, as a lore fan, is that does every race coexisting even vibe with the lore? I don't read it that way. In a PvE world, we might as well all be one race since there are no clashes amongst players of different races. And only in towns or maybe outposts might you have to worry about being attacked by NPCs who don't share your worldview. That's not the world I'd like to be in. To me, the faction system and its immersion is severely broken down in a world where scars and humans group freely. Is the point of a race just cosmetic? I'm just saying. Servers or shards are designed to limit the number of players in any given world. Visionary Realm has said that they will have a server cap on all their servers. I like the server cap on servers so that players can gain a reputation, good or bad, and the world doesn't become oversaturated with people. My last video is on reputation, and I'll link it below. The player cap especially becomes important on PvP servers because there still needs to be A, places where you can hide from enemies, B, where you can organize and plan your next attack or raid, or C, just find some mobs to grind in peace so that you can level up. If too many people were on one server, it would be quite chaotic. Just as a side note, I've always wanted to restrict race choices based on server population. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Every shard or server has a rule set. Rule sets determine the rules of the server, usually consisting of player versus player, player versus environment, role-playing. Now these rule sets are pretty self-explanatory. It's been a long time since I've seen my favorite type, the Race War server. This is a rule set in which various races are pitted against each other in a battle to retain their grip on the world itself. Certain zones can be locked down by races, and there is usually an undulating front line being advanced by one faction or another. In the early days of EQ, I cut my teeth primarily on Talonzek, a race war server in which there were 4 teams. In no particular order, they were humans, erudites, and barbarians as one team, gnomes, halflings, and dwarves as another, high elf, half elf, and wood elf as another, and trolls, dark elves, and ogres. There were way too many dark elf, trolls, and ogres on the server, so that the 3 other races ended up banding up together to make the team semi-even. This brings me to my earlier point regarding capping racial choices based on server populations. To keep the races from being too out of whack, I'd really like to see if there was a cap on the racial choices for one particular server. Now that could be just the rule set of that particular server or what have you, but what I'd like to see is, just to give random numbers, if there was 300 Dark Elf players and there's only 20 humans, new players coming in and creating new characters should have to wait until those humans come up to 300 or maybe 250 just to be kind of close. And I'm not just talking about Dark Elves and humans, but whatever they may be, so that these different races don't get out of balance and out of whack. If you maybe you really want to make a particular race, you might have to wait a week to make one, but at least the server is going to be more well balanced and it's going to be an overall better experience for everyone. If you have to wait a week, but you're really excited about one race, you got to wait a week. It's kind of a tough situation, but I think keeping the herd or the overall server in a healthy state is more important than your personal needs. What eventually killed my server was people starting to ignore the rules and group together anyway. It was called cross-teaming. If you do decide to join a server with a particular rule set, please follow the rules so that we can all enjoy the server for years to come. And the irony, by the way, of the other races banding together to fight against the Dark Elves is not lost on me. I understand we were already cross-teaming in a way. But anyway, moving forward, I'd like to try to recreate this social experiment, and by us following the rules would be the best way to have it last for years to come. Visionary Realms has put a real big premium on player versus environment. They want to bring the environment back into the player versus environment platform. I'm excited to see how this emphasis plays into PvP. It's almost a new acronym that we can start. Instead of player versus player being PvP or PvE, which is player versus environment, there's now a new thought for me, which is PvEP, player versus environment and player. You know, imagine you run up a hill and find yourself surrounded by an aura that's undulating around an ancient ruins. Now this aura ends up sucking your mana. As that's happening, somebody jumps over the wall, maybe a melee class, and starts attacking you, and they're at a super advantage. On the other hand, if the same thing would happen and he jumped over the fence, wasn't thinking about the aura, and the aura actually reduced magic resistance, you could cast on him freely and just wreck his face. So there's a lot of scenarios to talk about. I just wanted to hopefully pique your thoughts and imagine some cool encounters. One I hope to see, and I always wanted to see implemented, is a sunblind effect. So if a player is attacking with the sun at his back, his intended target would be semi-blinded due to the sun shining directly in his face. In real life, that's a real tactic they've used for millennia. It's turned a lot of the tides of battle throughout history, but just something for you to kind of think about how you can use the environment in a PvP situation to your benefit. Classes that typically perform well have a lot of utility and damage together. We haven't seen what numbers are on spells or abilities, but going on my experiences in EQ and various other MMOs throughout the years, pet classes are a fantastic choice, especially with a ranged player behind them, due to the fact that the pet is usually up in your face doing some raw damage, and you're firing arrows, nukes, whatever it may be, on the player in question. This would include like summoners, shaman, necros. I know when necros eventually will come in, but they were deadly in PvP. Melee classes are kind of spread out a bit on this, so anywhere from a monk who was really, they could fight practically naked. A monk was a great one on the server at Talonzek in the beginning, because I'd be running back to go get my corpse and be able to just suck some guy just as hard with no gear on as he would having his gear. Pretty lethal. Anyway, rogues are also great if they get the drop on you. Their sneak was amazing. They had some initial burst damage that was just crazy with execute and backstab. We've seen backstab in some of the streams that Visionary Realms has put out. Tank classes like the Pally Warrior and Dire Lord / Shadow Knight is kind of where I'm coming from on them. They're lumps of meat and they took forever to kill. Their DPS was really low, but if you could get someone to focus their attention on you, your friends in the background could just melt them. They could also survive way longer than the different types of glass cannons out there, like the wizards. Rangers and bards were a strange hybrid. They really had a better chance of running than just slugging it out with certain classes, but great utilities when they're part of a team. If you were to have a team PvP encounter, they're a great backup, great utility that we all need. Enchanters were annoying with all their tricks. I don't actually remember ever being charmed by one. I don't know if you could actually do that back in the day, but they have a whole bunch of stuff in their toolkits like hastes and slows, and just a great class to have around. One-on-one though, they're a little squishy. Healers in every game I've ever played were always targeted first. They are always the first to go down. Me being primarily a healer, it's a very tough life to live. But anyway, once their mana was depleted, or if you could chain interrupt them or stun them, they really stood little chance, especially with more than one person focusing on you. Anyway, guys, I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. I hope you guys can write something in the comments below. I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on it. If I'm wrong about some things, I'd love to get some correction. Just really excited to see this game come out. I can't wait to see you guys in Terminus. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please comment below if you have anything to say. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.